So after a 1-week break, we are back with episode 13, kicking off the second core of Dororo. We got a new opening and new ending, both of which I quite like. It's going to take me a little while to get used to the new ones because I was so invested in the previous opening and ending, but in terms of just sheer music and visual production, I like both the new opening and ending, and similar to the previous ones, I'm not going to be skipping them, I'm going to be listening and watching them every single week. But in terms of what we got with this week's episode, I have to say this was the perfect style of episode to kick us into a new core of Dororo, because this fight was so interesting because it wasn't even really a fight. It was more of a massacre, and it was such a creative way to introduce another opponent for our main character to deal with, because essentially you have this Buddha statue. From head to toe, it's for the most part extremely well sculpted. However, the face is pretty deformed, it's messed up, and then you see this woman drag innocent people to this slab where this giant ass sword comes and slices their face clean like a slice of bologna, and then that face becomes the Buddha's face. But they're looking for the perfect face to finish the creation. Like, that is such a cool way to get you immediately hooked on what the theme and overall story for this week's episode was going to be, because it was so messed up, especially with how they were detailing it, and based on how many bodies were at the bottom of this. Later in the episode we see, like, this was a long time coming, like, this had to be stopped. But what I was expecting personally was that it would be pretty much like we normally expect. You know, there's this evil person, we take care of it. I wasn't expecting to see much humanity coming from the artist, because we learned that the artist takes the form of basically the prey's most closest connection. So whether that's the mother, a loved one, a sister, whoever it is, that's the face and voice that the artist will take and kind of lure them to their death. And I thought that's all we were going to stick with, but I did like the humanity as seen through this artist, because it doesn't excuse anything that they've done. Like, this is horrible. They've massacred innocent people for probably hundreds of years, if not just many years. Like, there's a lot of bodies at the bottom of this. But I appreciate the fact that you have Dororo, who is just so invested in her, because from her eyes, like, this is her mother. Like, this is the long-lost, like, twin of her mother, so of course, you know, she's just a kid. She's going to, of course, get attached and want to call her mama and just things like that. And you knew it couldn't go well because there's no way we get introduced to a Buddha statue that's cutting off faces. We know this was the person behind it. There's no way it's going to be happily ever after what we saw at the beginning of the episode. But it was sweet to see the emotional connection that this kid, who by all means should be able to live a normal and childlike life, but was forced to grow up in a war-driven world after losing everything that was close to her. So it was nice to see that comforting scene, even though you knew it couldn't last, but you're only going to have this one time. So you kind of want to let Dororo embrace this fake mother while she can. And I just liked where this character went, because I honestly thought it would just be the artist would die and then we would move on. But rather, the artist kind of got attached to Dororo and, like, in the dying moments, wanted to touch Dororo's face, embrace the kindness and kind of compassion to recognize that all along, the artist was in the wrong. Which I thought was a nice way to go about that, because honestly, it could have just been another big bad villain, we call it a day. There was some humanity deep, deep, deep down inside this corrupted soul, but it was nice to see that there was at least some salvation at the end in the final moments. And, like, the fight wasn't even really a fight. It was really just Hyakkimaru trying to destroy this statue while also avoiding this, basically, creature trying to turn into Hyakkimaru's mother. But because he's never seen her face, the face couldn't change, and essentially that play was just useless in terms of him, because all it was a voice, but because Hyakkimaru can see the souls of people, the soul never changed, so it couldn't be his mother. So it was actually a pretty creative fight, because it wasn't really meant to be that action-oriented, but rather it was supposed to bring out these deep-rooted connections and try to kind of play to your emotional weakness to essentially send you to your death. And just seeing where Dororo, Hyakkimaru, as well as this artist kind of went, it was just a very interesting story. And I think it was so different from anything that we've seen up till now that it was really the perfect way to kick off the second course, especially because our main character is bound and determined to kill demons. That's all he knows right now. Everything in terms of a family, that it doesn't make sense. They're calling him a devil, so he's gonna kill demons and get his body back. That's all he cares about right now. The issue, however, is he's getting lost in this desire to kill demons. He's not taking care of himself, sleeping, eating properly, and it's ultimately going to catch back up to him. So it was interesting to see, because the episode, yes, it starts off with the whole Buddha situation, but it also shows you like where our main character's going, but also where the kingdom's going, seeing that the mother isn't dead, she's severely wounded, but the deal with the demons is still intact, and no longer are they in a drought. The rain has started to come back in, the soldiers are retreating, so everything with the pack is still intact, keeping the kingdom safe for now, but you're seeing that like this is just going to get worse for both sides, because as Hyakkimaru gains more body parts, the deal with the demons will get weaker and weaker, and the kingdom will start suffering more and more. Droughts, no water, no farmland. Their forces that they're fighting against will get stronger and be able to push back harder. The deal with the demons is the only thing really keeping them at peace, because there's so many aspects that a normal person can't control, like how the earth will function, but the demons are kind of keeping it at peace. So it'll be interesting to see just where Hyakkimaru's brother will go, the mother will go, and just like the guilt and suffering that they're going to face, and ultimately where Hyakkimaru will go with his rage and determination to kill demons, because once he regains his body, where does the story go from there? Because I expect when he does regain his full body, that won't be the end of the anime. I expect there will be another arc to follow, and that's where it's going to be really damn crazy, and who's going to live, who's going to suffer, and just who will survive in this new world that will be probably free of demons unless another deal is made. And that's going to be exciting, because they immediately show you what you want to see. What happened to the mother? Is the deal with the demons still intact? And you're seeing the deal's going well right now. They're gonna not be thirsty, they're actually gonna be able to survive another day, and then you see our main character who's so bound and determined to just kill demons. That's all he knows and what he can do, where you have Dororo just so worried because he's gonna kill himself. That's obviously what's going to happen. So this episode, I think, really did everything it should. It really got us to see a new and interesting fight that it wasn't really a fight in a lot of ways. It was more of an emotional connection, trying to overcome a demon, trying to possess your most vulnerable emotions, while also showing you kind of a bit of humanity in a villain, which we don't get to see too often, while also showcasing what's going on with this world and where the future of the series could go in the second core. You get the new opening, get the new ending. The OST throughout this episode was nice, really setting the emotion and atmosphere quite well. But I just loved how different this Buddha statue fight was, because seriously, that is just so cool and brutal that you literally have your dead artist revived to take the face of the most valued connection to them, to lay them on a slab, cut off their face like a piece of bologna, to then make that face into the Buddha's face, to see if that would be the face to kind of finish the statue. Because, like, that is just so ridiculous, and I love it. And only in series such as Dororo, where you do have demons, could you have something like this, but it's so messed up, and I love it so much, especially because it wasn't even just that it was a cool kind of Buddha statue doing crazy things, but the artist actually had an emotional response to some of these situations, and on the artist's deathbed, it wasn't just, I hate you, or something like that. It was more of a comforting and almost like nurturing scene between a mother as well as their child, which you don't get to see that too often with Dororo, and especially because Dororo is just a kid, it's nice to have a moment where you can, even though you know you shouldn't because this is the villain, you appreciate that you can have this comforting mother and kind of childlike scene, even though it's so twisted and messed up. It just gives you that emotional kick that you definitely need after so much suffering that we have had in Dororo. Even though there is more suffering by the end of this episode, it was nice that even for a couple of minutes, you could say at least Dororo had that mother connection that she did lose before. And it's just nice to have that. It really, really is, because this was such a creative episode, and it's going to be interesting to see where Hyakkimaru will go, especially because, like, if you look at the opening, like, his body's being ripped apart by, like, insects and stuff. Like, I think as he gets more human, he's going to get worse and worse, and only time will tell exactly where his mentality will go, but the future of Dororo is definitely looking bright. In terms of being the first episode of the second core, I don't think they could have done anything different to make it as amazing as this, because really this was a damn perfect episode to kick us into what's going to be the last section to the story, and ultimately where the kingdoms will go, and where our main character will ultimately end up once he does regain his entire body. But for everyone who did watch this week's episode of Dororo, did you love it as much as myself? Did you like the creativity behind the Buddha statue, or did you find it was a little lackluster? And what did you think of the whole mother and child connection? Did you kind of like it but also hate it all at the same time like me, or was that just something you're just like, kill this bitch and get her out of here? Let me know whatever you're feeling down in that comment section below, and if you are new around here, be sure to subscribe and also hit that like button if you did enjoy. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.